there's also the scientific law of like nothing that's been created can be destroyed, and that's how you should view your soul. Like your soul is eternal.
Right. But the topic was about should you fear God, or should you think God is your buddy, like your friend?
Well, of course, yes. I mean, why would he give you the gift of life just to put you in misery all the time?
I mean, like, I don't think so. Basically, what we're getting down to, Frank, is that we don't believe that there's an eternal hell. Only a place where people go to work off their bad karma and then they get another chance. Basically, my view of God is like a loving father that's trying to like push us towards understanding.
I hope that's true. But the problem is, if you believe God is just, then that's unjust to someone else.
Who are you to say that it's unjust?
Because you're allowing evil to continue, and it's unjust to someone else. Okay, so like someone harms me, but that person, there's no justice for that person because he's going to get a second chance. So
no,
like,
after he's punished, like he'll be basically tortured in hell for a certain amount of time, and then once he's worked off that bad karma through pain, then he'll come back and get another shot. Here's the thing: a finite mistake or a finite cause that you say you cause somebody harm doesn't deserve an infinite punishment. So like, there's only a certain extent that your crime can affect people, and basically you're gonna work off that bad karma in one of the hells, and then you'll come back after you experience the amount of pain that you caused, and then because if there's an infinite punishment for anything. Let's say it'd basically be like if somebody steals a candy bar and then they send them to jail forever because he stole that candy bar. Yeah, he stole the candy bar, but I mean, why would you put him in jail forever? That's not just.
Punishment is the crime.
Yeah, every punishment has to fit the crime. If you have an infinite punishment, then that would be very unjust.
Another thing too is like it's like for me, I'm very empathetic. I get a very good read on emotional states whenever I look at somebody, and like I'll say this, like whenever I do something bad, I feel like instant karma for that.
Yeah.
It dwells in my mind. Like, why did I do it that way? Or like, why did I react that way? You know, because in the past when I was schizophrenic, you know, I get worked up and I start be like, you know, like experiencing delusions of people talking about me or talking to me in a derogatory way that wasn't really actually happening. And I would like blow up in public.
Instant karma is the best karma because
and I would
then
feel
it's
so
not
terrible afterwards.
Yeah, instant karma is the best karma because you're it's not like saved up. You'll experience the negativity right at once. There's this one yogi who this guy wanted to kill him, right? So he offered up like a bowl of soup that was poisoned, and then the yogi drank that poison, and then the other guy just burst into like he just started feeling this terrible pain and started rolling around on the ground. And one of the devotees was like, why don't you just allow this, you know, end his suffering? And the yogi's like, do you want his karma to happen later or now? Because he's gonna get punished for trying to poison somebody and cause them pain. So when I heard that story, I was like, yeah, it's way better to experience instant karma than like for it to come back later.
I think if anything, I think Frank, in your case, you commit what you perceive as a sin, and you're like beating yourself up over it.
Let me read you this verse. It says, "The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan, with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing, because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Therefore God sends them a strong delusion, so that they may believe what is false, in order that they may be condemned, so who did not believe the truth and had pleasure in unrighteousness." So the Bible is basically talking about.
Well, first of all, the Bible has been rewritten many times, and there's a lot of it taken out.
That's why no one likes it, because
that's not true.
Yeah,
I don't feel that way.
No, I'm saying
there's a lot of good truth.
If you go out to right now, if we go down to Green Elm in Dallas and just pull people over to the side and ask them, like, you know, have you been saved, or what do you think about this verse? And they'd be like, oh, it's fairy tales.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
is that your experience that's actually happened?
Yeah, even my own family, that's sad. Yeah, I told my mom, John 1 verse 1, which says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word. See, the Greek translation of the word is Jesus, right?
No, dude, the word is the power of creation. So if he spoke the word, he was creating reality in the fabric of reality. And keep in mind that like a lot of people consider the word condemned an eternal word. But if hell and Satan will last for infinity, and the demons will last for infinity, then basically that's believing in multiple gods. Because like for me, there's nothing that lasts as long as God, which is infinite, and we're all working our way back to the source. But then in a way, if you believe somebody's going to go to hell forever, you're making hell into the equal to God, because you said it's infinite.
Wow.
So it is idolatry in a way without quite knowing how. But yeah, so like I believe that there's only one thing that's infinite. And if there's multiple things that are infinite, then that's truly making different gods.
Well, heaven is infinite,
Yeah.
eternal.
Is hell?
Hell is just the opposite.
So it's not eternal.
It says.
You know,
the
that
Bible
actually makes a
says
lot of
it's
sense
eternal.
that hell would be like temporary.
You're missed. Because there's plenty of verses that talk about. But also, you got to realize that the Bible was designed in the conferences of Constantinople, and they wanted people to listen and be afraid and be in line with whatever the church said. So they selectively wrote some lines that would be like, oh my God, I'm so afraid of God because he's send me to hell forever. Really, that was just people trying to manipulate you into following exactly what they say and not necessarily speaking the truth. The truth, just because a book says it doesn't mean it's the truth. It's our interpretation and our thought and our gaining of wisdom that brings us to the truth. You cannot get the truth just from a book. You can only be inspired by a book.
What's interesting is like there's two sides to this coin in terms of Christian like dogmatic faith. Like there's those that are like constantly in fear, constantly afraid, and they're afraid of God. And then there's the other one, the pastor or the preacher, the dogmatic Christian preacher who says like, you're gonna go to hell if you don't stop smoking. You're gonna go to hell if you like start a pit fire. You're gonna go to hell if you do this. You're gonna go to hell if you do that. It's like they're just the negativity is like feeding off each other and creating more problems.
And the weird thing is like when the pastor says bow down before God to be saved, and everybody bows down. How often does the preacher bow down?
Precisely, yeah.
He just keeps standing there while everybody's bowing before him.
Classic definition of self-righteousness.
Yes, for sure.
Well, the point is the church is not perfect.
Of course.
Damn sure.
That's for sure.
So John 1 verse 1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
You know what that word was? It was Om. That's the foundational vibration of all the multiverse. So that in Hinduism, I actually figured out what that it actually made sense for Hinduism, because it's literally like Hindus talk about Om being like basically the word like the Bible's talking about.
To anybody that wants to transcend fear, like a fear of God, not as opposed to seeing God as like infinite compassion, infinite love, I would say like study up on the avatars like Jesus Christ, Babaji. What are some others, Hunter?
I don't think that Frank believes in all the avatars, but they're
people that came down to lift like humanity up in like almost immeasurable.
You got Krishna, you got Shakyamuni Buddha, you got Jesus, you got Rama, and there's actually a very long list. But Babaji is a Maha avatar, which means that he's going to be here until everybody works out what they need to work out on this earth, and not stop coming back here.
Horus is one too. Like maybe even research the avatars of the Egyptian gods and see what they were about.
I think Horus was an avatar for sure. But there's just, man, I just wish there was more information that survived.
All these book burnings, these libraries being burned down, so sad.
Yeah, the Library of Alexandria, man, there's so much knowledge there.
One of the things that comes to mind whenever I hear about a new invention is like, well, God put this mechanic in place for you to be able to invent it. So what, in essence, you're doing is you're rediscovering what God already put in place.
Yeah.
Do you find that kind of interesting to think about?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely works both ways.
It's like we're assembling God's inventions.
Yeah.
But the inventions are already there.
I mean, plenty of inventors have been inspired by God for sure. I'm pretty, like, for instance, the airplane, I'm pretty sure that was inspired. I wouldn't necessarily say all inventions, unless we're thinking that everything is one, which I do think, but it'd be a little bit of a jump. Some inventions like Azazel gave to man the iron weapons, iron weapons, and then also makeup. So that's actually in the Bible too. And he's chained in like the deepest, darkest cave or whatever. And there's a Jewish ritual of like you give one goat offering, send it out to the desert for Azazel to appease him, and then you give one to God. There's a lot in the Old Testament where it's like it says that another god won, and then it's like wait, there's different gods, but then it doesn't explain it.
Wow.
But like for instance, like at one time, I think somebody like Moloch, like defeated God. But like when you start reading that, you're like, oh okay, there has to be a different truth that's like higher than this. That's a very low truth to think that there is. And like an evil god can defeat Yahweh. There's more to understand that people aren't really willing to research, which is unfortunate. Because you can spout like preachers can like spout off the Bible all they want, but it doesn't mean that they're wise enough to understand and actually communicate what it's saying. It's kind of why I started that podcast. So I need to get back to metaphysically interpreting the Bible. Because from Paramatma Yogananda and Kriyananda, I got a lot of information about the Bible and its true interpretations. I need to keep on doing that podcast.
I will say this: I feel like the miracle of life, all these miracles that we experience, like somebody who's just a average ordinary citizen, who's not very necessarily like religious or spiritual.
Yeah.
They'll see like they'll see something. Like something that's like overtly a miracle, and they'll say like, "Wow, life is so beautiful." But it's like, why not see the miracles in the fact that you can walk?
Yeah.
The miracles in the fact that you can see.
That's fair,
you
dude.
can hear. You've got all these miracles in place, allowing this paradise to exist.
Yeah.
But they don't. But they don't see it until like they have like a profound like a superimposed miracle.
Yeah, it's like creation is like a system of miracles. We just take everything for granted. But yeah, I mean, all of life, every single small miracle makes up a grander fabric of miracles. But yeah, people don't appreciate. I mean, I even am guilty of this. Don't appreciate what they have and how instrumental how we evolved was. And I believe we evolved from animals, but I also believe that God kind of set that into place. Where like we were always meant to come here, it just took longer. But I mean, as far as like a system of like creation, that's as much sense as I can make of it after research and understanding. But I never felt happy somebody giving me my truth. I kind of wanted to figure it out for myself.
Yes.
And really, that's what being a child of God is. It's trying to realize what's here, instead of trying to work towards what's not. It's not all about working towards heaven. It's about understanding what's here as well, and being appreciative for it, because we should be appreciative for the vast majority of things that we have, maybe even everything.
That's one of the things that disturbed me a great deal was whenever I was reading about like demonic, what's it called, like demonologists, like they drive out demons in people.
Mm-hmm.
Like the book I was reading, I will admit, like it was interesting, but like the guy was repeating himself in like different like pages. And
Was it like the Solomon in a way?
Like Solomon? Oh yeah.
He kept on repeating. Anyway, go ahead.
He'd say something in like page like 2, and then like bring it up again on page 40, and it'd be the same thing that he said. And I was like, why are you doing this? And like another thing was this demonologist that was like supposedly had like experience of like 30 plus years or 20 plus years of driving out demons and people. He was saying like, I'm gonna get a really good place in heaven. Like that's not the way to go about spirituality or religion.
Yeah.
Like you don't try to go for
you do something because it's right, not because
exactly. You do it because it's right, not because you're gonna get a certain like special place or a throne or some shit.
Yeah.
I mean that's like the satanic perversion of like what's in place here. These,
sure. Yeah.
The ability to like drive out malevolent entities and people.
I think it was Anton LaVey, which wrote the Satanic Bible, that said Satan is the biggest friend of the church that it has.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because anything that bad happens, you can blame somebody else besides God.
The devil made me do it.
This
Like,
is right.
okay, we're locking you up for about 40 years now.
I'm really happy that this fire kept going and that one log caught. I didn't think it was gonna catch.
It's kind of random, but like, do you guys know anything about like Jack the Ripper?
I don't.
Who, like, do you have any inclination as to who like the perpetrator was?
I have a pretty good idea that it was probably a surgeon trying to practice. So, most surgeons wouldn't do that, but there was this thing in England where, in other places as well, but there was a time when medical students, in order to find out like how to perform surgeries or whatever and figure out the human body, they dig up people that were just buried. So if you gave an extra penny, or I don't know what the equivalent is, to the grave digger, he could bury you deeper than 6 feet, because usually it took basically you could get the cadaver, mess with it, and put it back if it was 6 feet or less. But if you pay the digger dig deeper, then they couldn't do it in time. So it was probably a surgeon, but I don't really know.
I mean, I heard one crazy theory that Jack the Ripper was possibly a woman.
I mean, maybe.
Which kind of introduces the whole dynamic to the whole thing of like.
It's odd, but I guess it's possible.
Just a big open-ended mystery. I love that kind of thing.
Mysteries are for the individual to solve, not to be given the truth of. That's why I try to find my own truth in spirituality and history, to be honest. I've never really been much of a follower.
Alright, I got a verse for you guys.
Oh, great.
So this is Enoch. You know who Enoch was, right?
Yes, Metatron.
But in fairness, the only church that recognizes Enoch and like his books is the Ethiopian church. No other church recognizes Enoch. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Which may be a good sign.
Enoch walked with God, basically. I don't know the whole story, but and also I think this Enoch also explains like the fallen angels. But the verse is Enoch chapter 7. It says, talking about the fallen angels, and all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and I guess they mingled with the humans, right? The females.
You're talking about the what they were called, the Nephilim? Yeah,
Yeah,
they were called
Nephilim.
Yeah, Nephilim.
Right. And each chose for himself one, and then they began to go unto them and to defile themselves with them, and they began to teach them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants whose height was 3,000 ells, whatever that is, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind, and they began to sin against the birds, the beasts, the reptiles, and the fish, and to devour one other's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth.
You know what that's referring to, right? It's referring to the eating of animals.
Yeah. Because
you're defiling the animals by eating them instead of respecting them.
Yeah. I think at one point in the earth there wasn't. You didn't have to do that. You got your.
I think that early on, when we first started our spiritual journey, I think that the vast majority of humanity was vegetarian, at least. Because we're meant to be. It says we're meant to be shepherds, but it doesn't say we're meant to be butchers.
You have to kind of humanity from the get go, whenever it started, they probably were pretty innocent to a degree.
Yeah.
And they weren't thinking oh, I'm gonna go kill a fox and have some food, or I'm gonna kill a dodo or something. It's like they were thinking oh wait, all this green, all this plant life.
I think we ate this. This is a paleo diet where you eat a lot of nuts and you eat a lot of plants and stuff. It's called a paleo diet.
Where's all the vegan restaurants, man?
I have an app that finds vegetarian vegan restaurants.
10 Square's a place to go for anything vegan.
It's called Happy Cow. It is. It's called Happy Cow. It costs $3 to buy, but then it's always free after that. But it tells you vegetarian and vegan menus of nearby restaurants.
Nice.
So like it'll like show you their menus, and I was like, man, this is a useful app. Natalie actually told me about that, a coworker, but
In it right now. Oh, it's cost money for it.
yeah,
Well,
but you don't have. It's not a subscription, so like after you pay that money, then you never have to pay again. But Happy Cow, man, it's a really good app. The reason I haven't used it as much is because I kind of go to the same places. But like, no matter where you are, it can find.
let's see if it works. I don't know.
Yeah, bye, man. I'd suggest it.
Let's see what's around here.
An interesting factoid about the Books of Enoch is that they said in the script or whatever that like the angels were hung like horses. So if they were forcing themselves on women, they were like pretty much doing a lot of like practically killing them just to impregnate them because they were like apparently they were like quote unquote hung like they had like horse like.
Well, I mean, in fairness to horses, their penises can't necessarily harm women, but it's very uncomfortable.
Ah.
But the
What is that?
the vagina is actually pretty elastic.
What?
They can-
Horses?
Horses, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
Like-
Can you
like-
start that over?
The Nephilim. Not the Nephilim. Sorry, the angels that like were taking them, putting themselves in women.
They were
It
making
says in the Books of Enoch that they were like they had like horse penises basically.
Oh,
The angels that were like fallen.
Azazel was one of those angels that like decided to mix with man or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I need to take y'all to that one sandwich place that I found today. I already told Josh about it, but it's called Tops Sandwiches.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I got a vegetarian thing where it had breaded eggplants, chipotle peppers, provolone, like spinach, a bunch of stuff, and it looked just like how a sandwich would look in like the commercials. It was so good, dude. It was $13 for my meal, but it was so good. I'd highly recommend. I'll take you all there, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Where's the name of the place again?
It's called Tops Sandwiches. TOPPS.
If not top sandwiches, top subs.
Yeah, it might be that too. I don't know.
By the way, I wanted to ask, what would you rate a 1 to 10 your sandwich?
Dude, a solid 8.
Damn.
A 10 is like almost impossible. But like,
It's like
like no, but like basically that's what you get when you're in heaven is you get a 10.
like math orgasm.
Yeah.
Ah.
But it's a definitely solid 8 or 7 or 8.
You take a bite of the food and you come in your pants. Ah.
I'd say a Subway. I'd say a Subway is about a 5 or a 5. Like I'd rate Subway sandwiches a 5. But this one's like an 8, dude. And it's between here and Frisco, so it's like probably at most 20 minutes from here. But the funny thing is, I was looking for a Subway. Because there was a Subway on the sign, but then I couldn't find it in the parking lot. Then I saw this sandwich shop. I'm like, okay, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go in here, and then that's how I found it. So this basically like just because I was looking for a Subway, that I found something better. In a way, that happens a lot in life. You're looking for something, and then you realize how great it is what you found, which is a good message to end on. But y'all want to say anything else before I stop the video? Or y'all good?
What are we doing? What are you gonna do a video on?
It's been playing this whole time. It's been
I have
recording.
one thing I want to say.
I just told you that, Frank.
You never tell me when the video's
No, I do.
I have like one thing I want to say. For those out there who would judge someone for smoking or drinking alcohol or doing certain like hard drugs or whatever it may be.
Are you really saying this to Frank?
No.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm saying like cut that person, whoever that person is, some slack because who knows? Like 10, 5, 10, 15 years later, they may decide like hey, I'm gonna give this up. So they don't judge people for like medicating themselves basically.
Because you never really know what somebody went through. So like that's why I kind of stopped judging people for certain things.
Well, that's two different things. Judging someone for their sins or their actions or their behavior is completely separate it's completely separate than what is the truth, which means what does God require of you, like basically. So, and here's the sad thing that I think that no one really knows is that if you die in your sins, that you're jeopardizing your soul because you don't.
You may have a lesser reincarnation if you do something really, well, not like really bad, but like just kind of like somewhat mundane in terms of
because if you think
abuse.
that like, oh well, I'll just wait till I'll quit smoking, or I'll stop sinning, when I'm 80 years old.
It's not a sin.
What?
There's a list of sins. It's not one of the sins drinking or smoking.
What's interesting about this topic is that like food is literally a drug. You have to have it to live. But, like, food is a drug. Like, if you eat like a Whopper 3 times a day for like a year, you're gonna have a heart attack. Not a Whopper, but like any fast food place in general.
Dude, you saw the documentary Super Size Me, right?
The guy had like super high cholesterol a month in, right?
Yeah, he only did it for 30 days, and the doctor's like, you gotta stop eating just McDonald's, and he's like, oh.
Or else you're gonna have a heart attack. Basically,
Yeah.
your arteries are like getting clogged. You've got to stop. Like, that's a drug in itself. Like, food is a drug if you go about that route instead of like actually doing like overt drugs.
Yeah, and just to let everybody know, if you're gonna eat meat, try to get the organic or also the fresh stuff from the meat department, because the fast food places are not using the best meat. So even if you do eat meat, at least be kind to your body. Bad quality out there, man.
I mean, I've heard rumors about certain places, like, they use, like, dog food grade meat.
Yeah, man.
Some places do.
It's gross.
But here,
Like horse, basically.
I just want to go back onto the smoking thing, because this is what it says in Corinthians 3:16. It says, "Don't you know that your cells are God's temple, and that God's Spirit dwells in you? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy that person. For God's temple is sacred, and you together are that temple." So
Well, I mean, I think that would fall under eating meat as well, though, because there's plenty of passages that say meat is not what we started with, and it's not what we should eat. So in a way, if you eat meat, then you're also doing that. If you want to bring that up, but
I will say, like, when I smoke, it really is a form of self-harm, but, like...
And, dude, you got to think of the minded... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, it's a form of self-harm, but, like, it's not as drastic as what I experienced whenever I went through the delusions I did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had a suicide attempt at one point.
Yeah.
Like, smoking a cigarette, every day or occasionally every day, that's going to probably kill you possibly in, like, 50, 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I've heard stories of people who, like, they live to be, like, 101 or 102, and they smoke a cigar, like, every other day or, every day.
Yeah. And
so it's not like a open shut case of like vice when it comes to vices. Like, there are people who live to be like 100 and they smoke a cigar or a cigarette, every day.
I will say that when we think about what we consume, it's also the God temple thing is actually also talking about what we think. If we think negative thoughts, then that's actually just as much, if not more, souling of God's temple. So a lot of people, like if you constantly think like aggressive or sexual thoughts like all the time, that harms the temple just as much as what you consume, which a lot of people don't. It's very easy to see like, okay, don't use this, that, and a lot of pastors will apply that to the Bible, which I don't know if I believe that, but they very rarely say, it's about what you think and how you think, because that's actually on a deeper level. And then once you start doing that, you become a more spiritual person that is really not contained by whatever church you're going to. But if God's temple is, your thoughts can literally affect like your own body, not just your brain.
the way to look at it is like, do you love yourself? Do you love God? Do you love Jesus? And if you say, "Oh, I love Jesus, he's my buddy," okay, well, it doesn't work like that, because he's very specific on.
No, your translation is specific, not God or Jesus. Your translation is specific.
Yeah, well, in the Bible, according to the Bible, it says that if you love God, his laws are the light. So by following his laws, it's not like I love
what
God,
laws are you
I love my music.
What laws are you talking about?
I love, I love going out, I love my girlfriend. It's not like that. God doesn't have that kind of, that's not the relationship we have with God. It's about, the problem that the problem is that if you don't spend time learning the knowledge, the translations, then you don't know what the words like.
Dude, I spend a lot of time in translations. Like that's kind of how
it says, if you believe in God, or if you believe in Jesus, you'll be saved. But then you go back and says, what is the root word of belief? Belief, it means to obey. So again, God's always talking about his laws. If you break the commandments, if you break the laws, that means that you don't love him and he doesn't love you.
So basically God's a petulant little child who's like, oh, you don't like me? Well, then I hate you too. So basically he has human emotions, is what you're telling me. Because like that's what a 5-year-old would do. That's not what grown men would do. Is God 5 years old?
Well, God's holy and he's perfect and he's just. So
I would say this. I would say this. I consider myself a follower of Christ. A follower of Christ. I burn offerings of frankincense to Christ. I burn an offering of divine blessing.
He does have an altar to Jesus Christ, which most Christians don't.
I burn an offering to the heavenly. I call God the Heavenly Father. I burn an offering of like divine incense to God. And I will say this, like, sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was I gonna say? Do you mind give me a reboot of what you were talking about?
He's saying belief, it means obey, and if you don't love God,
it says. I mean, basically the point is you value your life, right? So
not above others.
I'm saying, but in general, you value your life to a point where you see yourself being. I mean, do you see yourself as an eternal being?
That's what I was gonna say. I see myself as a student of Jesus Christ.
Right. Okay.
So if you're saying you understand the Bible in a way, you're saying that you're just as smart as God. So do you really want to say that?
I mean, no, because his ways are higher
than our understanding.
Yeah,
so basically, everybody kind of has to interpret the Bible for themselves and not take somebody else's understanding.
Yeah,
if you do, then basically you're quantifying God's word.
You also have to keep in mind, like, each of us on Earth, we are all very extremely unique as human beings, from person to person. We all have our own like lesson to learn in this reincarnation, or lessons.
Yeah.
So you can't like really take like not saying the Bible, but like just one book and say like, yeah, I'm gonna base everything on that one book, because life is more complicated than that.
That's the thing is the Bible is the truth. It's about being righteous, and so there's no
how do you be
ways
right?
around it. Well, what do you mean how do you be righteous? What's righteousness?
To me, righteousness is loving God so much that you don't think he can be contained in any one script, any one book, any one act, any one religion, any one spirituality. I think God is so vast that there's no way he can be contained in a single religion, let alone one book. I think I love God and I respect him so much that I do not think he can be quantified within a single text.
So if you do something wrong, right?
Amen.
If you do something wrong, you commit murder, and you go. What happens? And
you'll go to hell for as long as.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying right now, without like if you put the Bible aside right now, if you commit murder.
I'm not putting it aside.
No, I'm just saying for a minute, put the Bible aside. If you commit murder, you're gonna go. What's the first thing that's gonna happen to you?
You'll probably go to jail.
Yeah, you're gonna get arrested. You're gonna go to jail, and then you're not guilty yet, until you go to court.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be in front of the judge, and then at that time, you can't say, well, it wasn't that I didn't like the guy, or it's not that I kind of feel bad about it, You
know that nobody's given an infinite prison sentence, right? So are we more just than God or less punishing? Because like nobody goes to prison for infinity. Even if you kill one person, you still have a certain amount of years that they put you there.
But there's still a chance for you because Jesus did forgive. He had the authority to forgive sins, right? But ultimately,
well, if Jesus died for our sins, then how come we can't? How come those sins would drag us to hell? If he died for our sins, then won't God look well upon man instead of trying to throw him into hell forever?
He died for our sins.
What does that mean? Also, what is it like? What does dying for our sins mean? What does that even mean?
It means that, in reality, is that God wanted to destroy the world. He was saddened because after sin entered into the whole equation, he was so sad about it that he wanted to destroy the whole world. But the only thing that's saving us now is that he made a pact with the Israelites, the people, his original people, during a time.
But no other people. He only made a pact with Israelites. No other people anywhere.
But they were
no other people anywhere.
Does
that make sense?
Yes.
How does that make sense?
That's what it says.
How does it make sense? People are everywhere. Why make a pact with one people at one time?
Because the Israelites, all right, were actually keeping God's laws.
I have a question.
Did you hear what I said? They were keeping his laws.
What if everybody was keeping God's laws in their different ways? Why isn't he compared to one people one time forever?
Because that's just the way it happened. That's the history.
No, I think there's multiple avatars. God is so merciful to me that he comes down time and time again to try and help us realize the truth. I think God is so merciful that he does that. I do not think that he is so selfish and expectant of us that he would send one part of himself forever. I actually think God's very merciful and very kind.
Think of it this way: like God is the great, infinitely great grandfather of you. That's the best way to think about it. He wants the best for you. He doesn't want you to suffer. He doesn't want you to be afraid.
We're getting off track. It's about
No, we're not.
Yeah, it's about like, do you want to do your own thing? Do you want to have your own ways? If you want to have your own ways, that's going against God, and that's going against being right.
I don't want to have my own ways. I uncover
doesn't
ways.
imply that it's evil. I mean, you can have like your own ways in a good way, and like a very like righteous, just, compassionate way. You don't have to have your own ways in like a dark, evil perspective.
Frank, how often do you pray?
I don't pray very often.
Well, it says in the Bible to pray.
I know, but I mean, I try to pray. I try to, listen to other teachers, and I read the Bible. I'm reading the Bible, and then I'm trying to learn how to pray, because I don't know that part yet.
That's fair. At any rate, let's go ahead and end the video for now because it's gone over a lot. At any rate, thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope this was interesting, and all of you have a wonderful day.